James Gilbert, who is hailing over from CRMNEXT. And James is a very interesting guest because he's a two-time CMO with one exit to acquisition with Cisco and an award-winning marketing thought leader who grew from a sales function into marketing operations. So that's very interesting, coming from sales into the marketing operations, very timely since a lot of conversations are merging these two groups more and more together, and then grew into a CMO role over the course of 15 plus years. He is a data-driven decision maker and regularly consults organizations on account-based marketing, data strategy, and much more. So I'm very pleased to have James from Next CRM on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Very good. So maybe give us an overview about CRMNEXT. What is it all about in your own words?
Yeah, it's funny because our name originated CRMNEXT because we wanted to be seen as the next wave of what CRM should be. Mm-hmm. We serve only a very specific niche of what people can do with CRM. So we serve the financial services industry. Mm-hmm. Specifically in the US, we only serve banks and credit unions. And there's a reason for that, because our product was made for them. So we're one of the biggest CRMs in the world. We have the most people on our CRM than any CRM out there. And the reason why that is because we don't have perpetual licenses with our product. So we allow the entire organization to use the CRM because we find that what CRM used to do was create silos, and it was supposed to break them down. Mm-hmm. And that's our value prop, and what we try to do whenever we go into an organization is we try to break down those silos so that functions of the business can truly operate in one cohesive way.
Very, very interesting. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more before we dive deeper into the product, about the background, a little bit about the company. Maybe, maybe how many website visitors, or how many clients you're currently serving, or just a price that you want to give the people a little bit of a framework of who CRMNEXT is.
Yeah, the best way for me to put it is to put how many users we have on the product, because that's a good indication of what we have. We have over 1 billion users of our product worldwide.
Quite significant.
Yeah, exactly. We have over 1 million accounts or branches that also use it, and a little bit about the history is we were structured and grew into the company that we are today out of India, and we grew in the APAC region, and we're growing in Europe, and now we're translating those results into the US market as well. Mm-hmm. So it's been around for actually quite a while, and we have 600 employees strong. In the US, it's a lot smaller, so we're still in the US considered like a little startup kind of, mm-hmm. And we operate in that way, and we like it that way. But we have a core sort of message that we have, and that's simplify work, drive growth, deliver experience. And that's what we have seen is we can actually quantify the specific pillars that I just mentioned. We can quantify the value and the results for everybody that buys our product. Mm-hmm. So for example, one of the biggest banks in the world, the State Bank of India, okay, they happened to have grown with us every single year exponentially. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that is because we do have a really deep product value that goes really far beyond just, hey, are we going to be able to get an ROI on this? It's much deeper than that. And in the financial services industry, the one thing that you have to remember is the blanket statement of digital transformation gets thrown around a lot, and people think of it as a buzzword, but we truly do it. We do it for the organization, and our customers globally and even in the US are seeing that firsthand, to the point where they start implementing our product and they're 2 months into it and they're like, oh my gosh, we have to move way faster than this. This is unbelievable. Matter of fact, we just had a customer here in the US that literally wasn't supposed to roll out to all their branches for another 3 months because we didn't know if they were quite ready to do it. And they're like, nope, we're going to do it because they're finding so much value. So you just can't wait, especially during COVID. It's just amplified our value even more.
Makes a lot of sense.
in the space.
For everybody who's listening in, would you mind to maybe sort of show or explain a little bit what makes a CRM for the financial industry unique versus, you know, the standard CRMs that you would be seeing like a HubSpot or a Salesforce? Like, what is sort of maybe 2 or 3 cornerstones that make it very different?
Well, number one, a financial services company like a bank or credit union, they have more systems than most industries do. I mean, I probably put them bar none next to healthcare as far as systems that exist out there that just make business run. Okay. So if you think about when you go to a bank or when you go to a credit union, you have transactions that happen: credit card transaction, mortgage transaction, mobile transactions. All of those transactions are meant to be triggered off of what they call their core system. And there's many core systems out there, but what those core systems rarely do is tie all of them together into a journey. So what really makes us unique is we can go in and directly integrate within the core. We have a design flow feature, which means that you don't have to do coding. So it's complete codeless configuration. And that's really what makes us stand out more than anyone. And that's where we win. Majority of the time is other CRMs are not doing that. They're not built that way.
Yep.
They're built to go into a function of a business, like they'll sell the marketing cloud, or they'll sell a specific function into service or support, right? And then they try to land and expand. And it doesn't work that way for financial services industry because their process has to talk to one another. So the contact center and back end has to talk to front end, and they have to be able to empower tellers and mortgage officers to see a complete view of the customer.
Makes a lot of sense. That very clarifies it. I would be curious on the types of businesses that you mentioned: banks, credit unions, financial services. What type of, you know, top client acquisition channels do you see? Like, what would be a journey that would be going through in order to become a client?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's pretty unique for us because we don't do a lot of marketing in the traditional fashion that you would typically see because banks and credit unions work in a community, and that's how they find out which vendors to work with. They don't go through Google search. That's not what they do. They don't click on ads, right? That's not what they do. They go into these niche communities that are specific to the bank or credit union, and that's where we play. That's where we go. But we do it different. We don't go after and try to sell. We give. So we run different types of campaigns that help educate people, but also provide a platform that they can be seen and heard so that it gives them value before we get the value that we're looking for.
When you refer to these communities, what should the listeners imagine? Is that sort of like associations, or how does that look like?
Some of them are banking associations. Others are, niche communities like a CU Insight or CUNA Mutual, those kinds of things. So those are the communities that you've got to play in if you're in the financial services industry, regardless of what software you sell. That if that's one of your primary audiences, you have to play in those communities first. You could put all of your spend from a marketing perspective in those communities, and you would get a huge return on it. So
makes a lot of sense. What role does the website then play for client acquisition in your perspective?
Well, our website right now is pretty interesting. We're actually going through a process where we're going to be revamping it because we're going through almost like an entire brand, a rebrand almost, right? Because here in the US, we're focused on the CRMNEXT product, but globally we have a lot of other products too, like Business Next, Customer Next, and Data Next, and all these things that help transform a financial services organization into something that they've never had before. So the website today, we don't use it like most people would. A lot of people drive folks to their website for acquisition and conversion. We're not doing that as much. We're driving them through some micro journeys onto some specific landing pages, and then we try to convert them there. But we also we ungate a lot of our content as well, because we run a dual funnel here. So we have your demand gen efforts that go through some of those communities, but then parallel with it, we run an ABM program. It's very specific to key accounts and targets that we're going after. So to do that, we have to have a lot more control over the experience that people come from a web perspective. So
makes a lot of sense. Very interesting, especially how you combine those two forces. Maybe just one more question on the website, especially because you mentioned you're using it sort of different than, what would you think is the major strength of the website at the moment? Is it like the ability to convert if somebody, even on those landing pages, comes to those landing pages? Is it the quality of the leads that is coming through? Like the experience that you have through those micro journeys? Like where do you see your strengths at the moment?
The strengths are the quality of the micro journeys. Like if you look at what we did, we ran a campaign called the Banklerette, for example. And the Banklerette was meant to walk people through a fun experience on dating a CRM, because like there's lots of CRMs out there. So what's it like to date one? CRM was about relationships, right? So we did this whole campaign and we drove people to a landing page, and the experience was, all right, now you know that CRM is about relationships. Now we're going to let you date them virtually, right? So we hired actors and they went through this video series. And then from that, they then dove deeper into getting to know us better through explainer videos and specific content. And then we would send them a direct mail piece that was a rose that could last up to 5 years, showing them that relationships should last. So that's kind of an example of how a micro journey can really just, if you're really focused on the experience, it goes a long ways. And I can tell you that we've gotten nothing but positive feedback on this campaign. I mean, even folks that we're not even targeting in our TAM and our ICP are reaching out to us and being like, this is a brilliant campaign. And I gotta, the credit goes to my team, because they're amazing individuals, and they worked their hearts out to make it happen. So credit goes to them.
Awesome. On the flip side, where do you see room for improvement on the website and on those landing pages? Like where do you, like, is it the, conversion rates? Maybe is it the...
Well, I mean, our room for improvement on the website specifically would be, now we have a US side of the website and a global side of the website, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So, we have a lot to do when it comes to just our website in general. If you go to CRMNEXT.com, there's just a lot that needs to be done there. How it's structured really isn't how we want it structured. What we talk about is not really how we position our product and talk about it, which is why I say, like, we sometimes try to avoid our website, like the big website, until we have a fix for it. So we do send people through these micro journeys where we can control the message a little bit more, and where it's not going to have a huge impact on what we're doing globally too.
Very interesting. Very cool. Maybe coming back to the product, right? Maybe for everybody who's listening in, as a summary, like what would you say is sort of one of the most main competitive advantages of the product over probably what's out there in the market?
Yeah, we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but that's the fact that we can integrate directly into your core system. But we don't even really like to be called a CRM, because people think of CRM in such a negative context, because it's just created so much pain for organizations since it came out. All of us have had that problem, right? And so we don't even like to be called a CRM, but that's why our name is what it is. And not only can we integrate directly in the core, but we really become almost a data hub. So we become this like centralized data hub that all the systems can then talk to each other and flow with each other. And because it's codeless, it's so easy to set up. And those are really some of our main core value props that we talk about and differentiators.
Very good. If we would look behind the curtain, maybe from the US side of things, like how would your sales and marketing team be structured at the moment?
Great question. So we have a pretty small team in the US still. We have about 6 sales reps, and then we have about 6 marketers. And then we have a pretty big implementation team, because part of our value also is we help them implement and we continue with their journey after go live. So we have a customer success team as well that helps our clients.
Okay, cool. Okay, I would love to switch the context a little bit and talk a little bit about you as a sort of marketeer, head of marketing in the team. Maybe can you tell me, like, what type of content do you consume? How do you educate yourself?
Oof, that's a good question. Well, I do something similar. I go into these communities that are now being created, like the Peak community, Revenue Collective, Dave Gerhardt's community. I go in these communities because, number one, you can never know everything. Like, you're just never going to get there, especially from a marketing perspective. Things change way too often for you to even pretend that you're an expert anymore. Like, the expert that was here today could be a different one tomorrow, right? And you look at the waves that are even happening through LinkedIn, and now you have LinkedIn stories, right? I mean, I don't even use those. But you're having these huge influencers that use that stuff. So I go to LinkedIn, I go to the communities. I also trust my network a lot. So if I have a question about a particular software or vendor or agency, I ask my network first. I ask those communities first, and then if I can't get an answer, then I expand. But I'm also pretty well versed with technology, and I've tested a lot of them out over my career. So it's got me a really good understanding of what's out there and what it can be leveraged for. And so I leverage those relationships that I've built with those as a customer with them previously to also identify new pieces of technology and new areas that I could improve.
Very cool. Since we're slowly coming to the end of the interview, I would love to jump into our rapid fire questions. It's just a couple of short questions and crisp answers. Are you ready for those?
Sure.
Awesome. So what's the last book you read?
It's The Context Marketing Revolution.
Very good. If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be one thing you wanted to have fixed for your company today?
No boundaries. One source of all the data.
What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
I have 2 new hires that I'm bringing on in like 2 weeks. That's kept me awake.
Very good. And the very last question. If today would be your first day, right, at CRMNEXT, stepping in first day into the office, what would be one advice that you would give yourself?
I don't know. That's a good one, because I actually really am, not to toot my own horn or pat my own back, but I feel like I handled coming into CRMNEXT the right way, which I collaborated with all the leaders. I understood the gaps. I saw that we didn't have a brand promise or a message that was cohesive, and that's where I started. I don't think I would do it differently than that.
Very good. So, James, thanks a lot for being part of the show with us today. I want to give you the last word. If somebody forgets everything about our interview today, what would be one thing they should remember about CRMNEXT?
I think if there was one thing that people could remember about CRMNEXT, it would be that, we really are here to help people and to help organizations grow. And if I had to say what we're trying to position ourselves as is that's what we're doing. We're not in it for the sell. We're really in it to try and help people grow. So if that's the only takeaway you got from this, go ask people that work with us, and you'll hear that same sentiment. And that's our goal, is to keep that throughout the entire process.
Awesome. Thanks for being part of the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you.